Hey, Kathy Hayes, how are you? Can you hear me? I hope you can hear me. Nice to see you, Kathy. You commented before I even started. That's funny. Hello, how are you? Perfect. Thank you, Kathy. Glad that you guys are with me. Hope your week was great. What's up, Bill? How are you? Nick Carroll, how are you, my friend? DB Mac, what's up, my friend? There's Janie. How are you? The channel's godmother. Bright and early. Sunny, the wandering gypsy, how are you? You're early tonight, too, dear. What's up, Harry? I'm doing well, DB Mac. I am doing well. Aramic! What's up, my brother? How are you? How are you, my friend? I have a book that I am going to reach out to you this week, and I want to talk to you a little bit about it, Aramic. I'll talk about it next week on the live stream, but it's pretty fucking awesome, and I can't believe I found it. Monkey, how are you, buddy? Sniff it out. There's Troy. I bet you got more snow than we did, buddy. We got about 8 inches this week, but I bet you got more than we did down here. Wesley September, how are you? I had a really good week. I had a really, really cool week. I got some cool shit that I want to show you. Got some great stories. Lizzo gets a pet. Lizzo does some battles with some sex robots. And Lizzo's dad, Snoop, is back in town. So hell yeah. It's snowing right now. Yeah, you guys are in that band that is going to miss us tonight. I'm a pro. We were supposed to get some snow this tomorrow, but that's going to miss us now. Delirium, how are you? Gavin, how are you, my friend? Great book, right, buddy? It's a great book. Into the Fringe. Holy shit. When you got that book, Aramic, and you read it, or like you opened it up, it's just like so, I don't know, just knowing who she was and doing like the research on Carla, it really like, oh man. I honestly can say like the one thing that I love about doing this channel is all the really cool books that I can find and probably like wouldn't I wouldn't even know about because like I purposely look for like stuff to share with you guys and then I end up buying it. And like I have three new books coming this week and I can't wait to like read them and then share them with you guys. It did fly by. It did fly by. There's Jess. How are you, dear? It's a quick book, Aramic. It's a big book, but it's a quick book. It's pretty freaking awesome though. Simone, how are you, dear? I hope you caught the thank you video that I did for you. Guys, did you see Simone strategically the Australian coinage to me from the Australian country or continent? No, country. Continent. What am I, an idiot? Australia doesn't want to share its coinage with America. America doesn't deserve your coinage. But I have it. And there's a Yowie on, and it looks like Captain Caveman and the Lorax had sex, and that's what the Yowie looks like on their $2 coin. It's pretty fucking awesome. Amanda, how are you, dear? Arthur Ostrander, how are you, my friend? Sean, Tyler, Tyler, how are you, buddy? Zilla. I'm doing well. I hope you're doing well. Nice to see you. Here, I will put my email in right now for you, buddy. So you have it. Just copy it down right now. I am the slowest typer. It's under SDL, my friend. Under SDL. I'm glad to see you, Amanda. I'm glad that you're here with us tonight. SDL Jager. Monkey crap, right under SDL, in between Samara and SDL. I'm a Samara and SDL sandwich right now. How are you, Samara? I was waiting all week for you, brother. Oh no, Janie. So Jimmy. Fuck, I forgot to text you back. The day you texted me about the book was the day that we got the snow and I had to shovel my dad out. I'm so sorry. I'll give you a call tomorrow if you're going to be free. I got it, but I didn't watch it yet, Zilla. So anyway, you guys are here. Let's start the live stream. I've got to share some really cool stuff. All right. So I was talking about books. I love books. I like theology, cryptid, paranormal books, super soldier books, anything I can get my hands on like that. But I also like some of the classics and stuff. But my biggest like kind of thing is music. I love music. And this week has been a great music week. Now, many of you guys have heard me talk about how my favorite singer, I have a couple favorite singers, one being Chino from the Deftones, and number two, Mike Patton from like 1,000 different bands, Faith No More, Mr. Bungle, Peeping Tom, Tomahawk, Phantomas, and more. And he came out with a new album with two brothers, the Evans brothers, and I got this on vinyl this week. So happy. Mike Patton doing country music. How weird is that? But then I talked about Three Teeth, my favorite new band. What's up, Nez? How are you? So Three Teeth is just this fucking, they are almost like, they bring me back to the nostalgic days of Nine Inch Nails, Marilyn Manson, and Prick, when like those three bands were the three bands that I listened to. So I made friends with the lead singer, and his name's Lex. Really freaking awesome guy. He's from the Adirondacks. Initially, he doesn't live here anymore, but I reached out to him, and their albums are super hard to get. Like, you can get them, but the ones that you want to get are super hard to get. But he sent me this autographed vinyl with all the autographs from the band. And then one of their hardest albums to get is called Metaware, right? And he sent me this, and I am a dork for music, but this is a test printing for Metaware. So the only people that have this are the band members and the production companies. And I have it. And I am fucking stoked. I thank you so much. I so blessed. And the lead singer of the band sent it to me, Monkey. So what a week. What a week. To be honest with you, you're not going to find a book like that is going to be true. That's going to be a really hard book to find. One, because nobody really knows. It's all going to be based on theory. It's you're looking for an encyclopedia on a science that is based on theory. The best thing to do would be to create your own, like get a notebook and start listening to like my channel and other people's channels that are legit. Dark Waters, How to Hunt. Um, I hate saying it, but Vic Cundiff. Um, Anybody that has some sort of like real stories on their channel and listen to it and like start kind of documenting the weights and heights of each. And that's probably the best way you'll get something like that, buddy. I would try to just do it yourself. Keep a notebook handy and be like, oh shit, crawler in Tennessee was about 7 feet in height, and but this crawler in Arkansas was 8 feet. Something like that. Tracy, how are you? Dragus, how are you? Send me an email, Dragus. Send me an email. I'll give you a holler. I normally don't do stuff like that, but I will talk to you about it. What happened, Janie? You are a mod, Jane. Meet a dog man. To be honest, that's something you don't want to meet. Just, I mean, and especially not drinking. Definitely not drinking. You want to have your wits about you. All right, so let's get the night started. Aramic, because Eli, how are you, buddy? There's Key West. Aramic, this one goes out to you, my friend, because you are you, and you are just amazing. This occurred April 13th, 2018 at about 10 p.m. We were parked in a parking lot next to a redacted area, which is off of a different road. These are not available. I do not wish to discuss why we were parked there. Suffice to say, it's a dark place to park at night. My boyfriend looked up and freaked out when he saw a pair of large, glowing red eyes staring at him. I looked up and saw something standing in front of my car with two bright red eyes. It made a chirping sound that we heard when we turned down the radio. When we moved, it put what looked like a hand on the hood of the car, and then we saw what looked like wings spread wide open. I panicked, turning on the car, which automatically turns on my headlights, and it lit it up. It looked like a large bat. It had blackish skin that looked like glossy, wet leather that shone in the light. It then screamed, pushing its head out and its arms back, and then flew up into the air. We could hear the wings flapping as it flew up, and within a few seconds, it landed behind the car, its body still visible when I pressed the brakes and the brake lights shone on it. Janie, thank you. Thank you. I love you. Both of us were screaming at this point when it flew back up and landed about 6 feet from the passenger side door where my boyfriend was. We wasted no time trying to get out of there. As we backed up and whipped the car around, we saw it land in front of us off to the side of the vehicle about 3 feet. I honked my horn and turned on my high beams. It screamed again and flew into the air, and we screeched out of there and headed towards this different intersection when my boyfriend says he saw it land again just off the road. We did not stop to investigate. We floored other highway, and we were passing the apartment buildings when we saw something fly right over the car, lower than the street lamp post, screaming as it flew out of sight. We get to my house, stayed in the car for 15 or 20. I was hysterically crying. My boyfriend was shaking. It took me about 30 minutes to get myself together, drop off my boyfriend, and then drive back home. I have constant nightmares about this thing. It's not been easy sleeping without a closet light on. My boyfriend says he has been having nightmares. Anyway, thank you for listening to my experience. I also estimate it to be 7 feet in height, wingspan about 7 to 8 feet. I almost got the feeling like it was toying with us, like it knew it scared us senseless. As for physical reactions, it took me a few hours to get back to normal. I had thrown up twice because of my nerves, and I had the feeling like I was being watched even through the curtains. I still feel as I'm being watched, almost as if it had marked me in some way. Last night was the first night I slept with any lights on. It's taken me about an hour and a half to finally fall asleep. It's put me off on going to bed or going even outside at night anymore. Thank you for allowing me to share. I hope I never see this thing again. The Jersey Devil, I had a guy that Paul Peterson, he's been researching the Pine Barrens and the Jersey Devil. He's got a great book about the Pine Barrens. You should check it out. Paul Pedersen Jr. is his name. And I had him on here. We're pretty good friends now. I just reached out to him, and it's just amazing. Amazing guy. I'm doing well, Tina Marie. How are you? Sonia, how are you? We love some Shackle Neck too. What's up, AG? Brian Mons, how are you? Claire Harris, how are you? Outside in, inside out. Well, when he and I met for the first time, he hadn't heard of Dogman. And I met him because it was after I went to the Conjuring house, and I had watched a video. I'd watched a video with Isabel, and he was in it. And so I reached out to him, and we instantly hit it off. Really nice guy. But he had never heard of Dogman, and I explained Dogman, and he had listened to the show for a couple times. And then he thinks that a lot of the Mothman sightings that are reported where it jumps into trees and stuff could be Dogman. And like I said, he's done some serious research. He lives right in the Pine Barrens. Super nice guy. So if you get a chance to check out that book or that interview I did with him, it's on the channel. All right. I got some Bigfoot encounters tonight for you guys too. I hardly ever have any of those. This is an interesting one. This is very interesting. Maggie Mayhem, how are you? Well, he truly believed that a lot of the sightings, because he didn't know anything about Dogman. And then he heard about how high they jump and this and that, their abilities to, just very quick, very aggressive, just a lot of stuff. And it really coincided with a lot of research he had did on different sightings and stuff. And he really believes, like, it was almost like a Tim Coonbo Baker moment where Coonbo realized, holy Aramaic, thank you, brother. Where Tim Baker realized, holy shit, I've been classifying these Bigfoot encounters as Bigfoot, but they are something different. I got to go back and look and see, which was cool. Thank you, Aramic, for blessing everybody. You are truly a good friend. Oh, there's Turbo Christ. How are you, my friend? Johnny Sumner, how are you, buddy? Jarrett, how are you? Papa. Bandito. All right. Little context. This creek is in my grandmother's neighborhood and is a short walk from her home. Myself and my cousin would go down to the creek all the time. The creek is pretty deep into the forest, and if you walk on the right trail for a bit, there's a waterfall. Nothing bad or scary ever happened there, and I had never thought to be scared since I do love that forest. Anyway, myself and my friend go to the creek one day like usual. Nothing strange or anything that made me feel uneasy. There's this rock that you can hop across when you are at the waterfall, which leads to the top of it. We hop across and we see a path we had never been on. So Jay and I agree that we should walk it. We take one step, I mean, literally one singular step toward the path, and this thing speeds out of the trees, hovers over the water, goes onto the other side where the path is, and then dashes off into a straight line. It was gray and completely skin and bone. Its arms were longer than its legs. It ran on all fours, hovering over the water and leaving as quickly as it came, making no sound. This thing was so fast that we did not even hesitate to run. We ran for our lives, being in the middle of these woods. I have never run. I am not athletic, and I don't like doing things that involve sweating. Yet, when I saw this thing, my body ran so fast, I don't think I touched the ground. We made it to where we could see the houses in the neighborhood through the trees, and after what truly felt like hours of running, we stopped. The adrenaline wore off. I stepped onto the path, and Jay was just barely on the path. I was catching my breath, and then I looked behind me, and I saw it staring right at us. It chased us again, running in zigzags, even when there was nothing stopping it from just going straight towards me. I pushed Jay onto the path again, and we ran back to my grandmother's house. For some reason, Jay and I both don't remember what happened when we got home or what happened before we saw the thing. We have heard multiple times that it was just an animal. No animal can hover over water like that, being that it didn't have wings. It had limbs. It looked exactly like the crawlers do. As an animal or something unexplainable, then one of us would have been like, oh, bro, it's just an animal. But no, we both ran for our lives. I remember yelling, what the hell is that? And we ran. It took us 3 minutes to get to where we could see the houses through the trees. And Joseph Canyon, thank you so much. Through the trees, Jay and I have a theory that it could have been trying to get us out of there. We took one step on that path we've never been on, and it appears strange. And it was fast enough to get us, but didn't, even though it followed us. The only time it ran full speed at us again was when we stopped to catch our breath. We have not seen it since, but many don't believe us. Anyway, thank you guys for allowing me to share. I do believe we saw a crawler. I wonder how it hovered against the water, like above the water. That's weird. Like it hovered against the above the water, unless like pareidolia when you're scared of something. Like people have seen logs or a stump in the middle of the forest, and they mistaken that stump for a Bigfoot, a Dogman, or something. There's really really good evidence of pareidolia out there. Maybe it was just the adrenaline rush and them thinking that it was hovering against the water. Maybe it wasn't near the water. Maybe it was like at the vantage point of how their eyes were seeing it. It sounds like a crawler to me, other than the water bit. So, but I mean, I think more or less they were sounds young, scared shitless. So I think it was just like a whole miss kind of misinterpretation of what was really going on. Trauma. Yeah. Yeah, they are not okay with me either. Toby, how are you? CN Fabu, how are you? Maybe Arabic. Maybe. Maybe. Or maybe it had a good time in the woods by itself and kind of got a little bit of drippage on its legs, and that's how it did it. Revision, how are you? Or Revisioner, how are you? Sonia, how are you? What happened to Sonia? What did I miss? What's up, Jay Cortez? How are you, buddy? 175. Tough week. Oh, no. Oh, Sonia, I'm so sorry for your loss. Dang it. That's hard. I can just imagine. Brian Mons, how about next summer we get something planned together? Sonia, I'm so sorry for your loss, dear. Yeah, it's weird, David Truths. Check and see if the bell icon is clicked. Sometimes you have to redo it. Eli, what's up? I already said hi to you. I've already said hi. Literally, when I saw you first, I said hi, Eli. What time is it? 3 minutes, and we can do a Lizzo story. 3 minutes. So I'll share a short one with you guys, and then we'll get a Lizzo story. How's that sound? What's up, MJ Bates? Charles, man, how are you? Hi twice. For $5, I'll say hi to you twice. Tigger I'm surprised he's not in here, Wrecker. I am surprised he's not in here. He's been a pain in the ass all week. No, I distinctly, you might want to replay the whole thing because I said Eli. Oh, I did say, yes, I did but I was in the middle of reading Experience, so you can't hold that against me. I literally stopped on Experience to thank you. Hey, Bear, thank you for becoming a member. Prince Arcane, how are you? Otis Driftwood, what's up, my brother? Thank you, AG. Jarrett heard me. Jarrett can attest, and I just called him Jerry by accident. Jarrett can attest. Sorry, Jerry. $5 and I'll call you your real name, Jarrett. Selling names now, baby. Selling names. I got love for you, Eli. When Claire said welcome back, Aramik, for some reason the Welcome Back Cotter song came in my head. And I have not heard that song in like 35 years. I'm going to have to make a rendition of Welcome Back Aramik. All right. My dad and I went camping up at the Gold Butte Lookout. From 11:30 to 1 a.m., we saw lights zigzag down the ridges into the valley while looking east toward Mount Jefferson. We also saw more lights to our southeast and south. They were quite large lights that would occasionally change color from bright white to cream to red. They would then twinkle in and out of sight, appear about a half an hour more or less from the previous sighting. Sometimes there would be one, other times there would be three. My dad thought they were just cars or people on ATVs. and that the red lights were their brakes. That could be what they were, but to be honest, I thought if they were cars or ATVs, it was strange that their lights were visible from the top of the ridge at the Gold Butte Lookout, because any roads on that side of the ridge wouldn't be wouldn't would have been extremely small. I would assume their lights would have been basically pinpricks, but the way they moved made me wonder if they were drones. My dad thought that couldn't be the case because that would make no sense. He doesn't put any stock into Bigfoot or orbs or the supernatural, but I do. And I wonder if what we saw were UFO crafts or even orbs of light that are often associated with Bigfoot, the Fae, and other paranormal entities. Thank you. Has anyone seen any lights in Detroit Lake, Oregon, or specifically up on Gold Butte Lookout? All right, so let me see. This one, I'm going to read this one first. Lizzo story time. My dad gave me the Randy Man, what's up, buddy? I've wore this shirt about a zillion times on this show, Johnny. One of my favorite bands. Actually, you missed it at the beginning of the story. There's a band called Three Teeth, and I just got their first printing, their test printing, like my prized possession. What's up, Mad Axe Man? How are you? Thank you so much. Wiley, how are you, buddy? All right, let's start this. Lizzo. My dad gave me the idea for this one. My dad's idea was I don't know where he was thinking about it. He was probably sitting around the kitchen table drinking beers and listening to radio. And he said to my mom, maybe Lizzo has a pet. My dad thinks about this shit. And he said, what if it was a pet monkey? And then he told me that. And then so the second he told me that, I came home and I wrote this. So here we go. The neon sign flickered like a dying heartbeat above the Blue Barrel truck stop, its paint peeling faster than the secrets traded in the parking lot. Lizzo, the lot lizard queen, sprawled on her throne of greasy-stained tarps. Her scales shimmered under the sodium glare. At 87 years of age, 32 if you believed her, the reigning monarch of the truck stop's most unconventional court, Lizzo had seen her fair share of weirdness, but nothing could have prepared her for the night the universe threw the worst cosmic punchline at her domain. It had begun 3 months earlier at the usual or the annual underground bingo bash. Lizzo, a woman or creature who thrived on high stakes, had wagered her prized diamond-encrusted hubcap for a chance to bid on the auction's mystery surprise. A 3-year-old male chimpanzee, snatched from the black market zoo, had been delivered in a cage labeled Lotto. Lucky, lucid, louder than your average chimpanzee. Lizzo laughed until the first bid. By night's end, she had paid 20 hubcaps, 3 leather jackets, and a vial of her famous slimy green tears, a secret ingredient of the trucker hangover shakes, to acclaim him. Lotto was something intelligent, chaotic, and prone to belting out show tunes when he wasn't peeling raw hot dogs into edible guitars. He had taken an instant liking to Lizzo, draping himself in her scarves and referring to her as Mama L. Earl, her burly mechanic and part-time lover boy, wasn't as charmed. That monkey's got a vendetta against my spleen, he'd grumble, nursing a bruised Lotto had gifted him after a disagreement over wrench placement. Tuesday, the aliens arrived. As Lizzo's assistant, a former circus python named Sidonia, put it. A Tuesday night full of truckers, titties, and Thai takeout, but at 10:13 p.m., the sky split open. A silver saucer the size of a semi-trailer descended into the parking lot. Its hum was low. It made the diesel generators weep. The aliens emerged, gray, hairless, and reeking of antiseptic and bad decisions. They spoke in a language that sounded like a washing machine having a nervous breakdown, but their intentions were clear. They wanted the truck stop's fuel, all of it, to power their intergalactic journey to, well, who knows where. Chaos erupted. Lizzo and her subjects, a fierce crew of drag racers, Xboxers, and women who had seen things, fought back with shotguns, bear traps, and a rogue flamethrower. But the aliens were prepared. They released a shimmering gas from their Zap 3000, and the humans collapsed in a soggy mess. Lizzo woke up later, chained to the gas pump beside Sidonia and Earl, her scales scraped raw. The aliens were preparing to blow the fuel tanks with a device shaped like a Q-tip. But in the darkness, small eyes gleamed. Lotto had spent the skirmish hiding in Earl's sleeper cabin, chewing on a harmonica and plotting. He watched the aliens prance around in their tinfoil bodies, their backsides encased in glossy gray armor. From his vantage point, he noticed a gap. Haha, yes, a soft, fleshy crease just below their lower back, a booty hole, as he later described it to Lizzo during his victory speech. Slipping out of the cabin, Lotto crept through the shadows, his tiny hands clutching a slingshot he had fashioned from a seatbelt and a trucker's tongue. He leapt into action, pelting the aliens with marbles, gumdrops, and a single ominous acorn. The creatures screeched as each projectile struck the tender zones. One cried so hard it levitated in agony. Its tears formed a puddle of glitter. Another tripped over its own feet, knocking over the Q-tip device. "This is war!" one alien wailed, clutching its rear as Lotto dropped from the ceiling onto a curtain, screaming, "Cash me outside!" in a perfect Beyonce impression. The UFO lifted off in a hurry, its crew abandoning ship. In faint, questionable dance moves and relentless taunting, Lotto stood victorious in the parking lot. His chest was puffed out, a hubcap on his head, and a grin that could outshine Venus. The next morning, the truck stop was a mess of alien sludge and confetti. Lizzo, freed from her chains, cradled Lotto like a newborn. "You're a monster," she crooned. "A glorious, glorious little monster." Earl, still in a daze, grumbled, "I hate that damn monkey, but damn." A week later, the Blue Barrel hosted Pet of the Year Carnival. Lotto, adorned with a glitter-encrusted tiara and a cape sewn from Sidonia's tutu, was voted a clear winner. His campaign slogan, "No one saves your ass like my ass," became legend. As for the aliens, rumor has it they landed in Tulsa, only to be ambushed by a rival chimp with a grudge. But that's another story for another night. You've probably never heard of it before. Thank you, Key West. Ugh. I decided to do something different, you know? Just a jewel, monkey crap. Just a jewel. Thank you, Maggie Mayhem. You like that one? No one saves your ass like my ass. I don't know, AG. Probably Probably a lot longer. It was longer like 2 years ago. Yeah, but when Lotto said "Cash Me Outside," he sounded like Beyonce, not the fucking Bad Baby. All right. Oh shit! I forgot about this. So, for the last couple of weeks, there has been stories or experiences out of the Appalachian grandparents, like their grandfather and grandmother, and a few of them. One was like the Lady of the Woods. I don't know. There's been 4 so far. So this is number 5, and this is a cryptid that I talk about that not a lot of people know about, and if you do, you've heard it from me and maybe like an old cryptid book. But Eli, thank you, buddy. I do remember, buddy. I just didn't remember when I was reading it. All right, here we go. Hey, y'all. Tonight, I'm going to share an experience with the raven mocker. So, back when we were kids, my grandmother and grandfather were always talking about a raven mocker. This legend, older than West Virginia, older than America itself. It's a real ancient tale that come down from the old people long before us were even here. Raven mocker supposedly is a witch, a medicine man gone bad. Some folks seen him as big as a raven, blacker than midnight, and a whole lot bigger than any crow you've ever laid your eyes on. He's out hunting life force, stealing years off sick and dying people. He'll perch on a windowsill or on a chair in a room and let out this awful screech that sounds like crying or howling. That's why they call him the Raven Mocker. He's mocking sick people. When the person finally gives up and lets go of their life, he takes it, adds them years to his own. Then he'll turn himself into a weak-looking old man, all frail and harmless, and live on with the time he stole. In the cryptid flying form, you won't see him unless you're the one he's after, or unless you're another raven mocker yourself. Only one thing drives him off: warmness. Best is a good fire in a fireplace or in a burn pit. Any kind of bright, living flame close by. That's the only thing that'll make him leave. The tie-in with Bigfoot. Now, here's where it gets interesting. The Raven Mocker makes a deal with the Bigfoot, the big hairy fella of the woods. Some stories even say he can turn it into one himself. It's a win-win for both. The raven up in the sky screams out warnings when people are coming or when there is prey around, and the Bigfoot, he's big and strong and mean and gives Raven Mocker muscle on the ground. Together, they can scare people and hunt them. And that just hands more life force for the Raven Mocker. You put yourself square in their sights if you go talking about them while you're in the woods, or if you go telling strangers their business. That's when you become fair game. They will mark you, hunt you, curse you. One thing they both always finish with, every single time they've told this: if you are sick in bed and there's a fire burning low and you hear a raven outside your window that sounds almost human, don't look. Just throw another log on the fire and say your prayers and wait till morning. Because sometimes when the hollers get real quiet and the wind stops blowing through the pines, folks say you can hear it still, a low mocking laughter way up in the trees. And if you listen close, there are heavy steps walking slow around your house, like something big is just waiting for those flames to die. Ain't saying this is true, just saying Granny has kept 7 candles burning every night. Anyway, thank you. This is from West Virginia. My granddaddy has a West Virginia Bigfoot story that I might share just here soon. I like those. I think they're cool. Like, I wish I wish I knew like some old people that lived in the Appalachias and I could just sit down with them and be like, tell me a fucking crazy, scary story, old people. Thank you, Amanda. Albuquerque. Cooley Dudes, how are you? Cynthia, how are you? What's up, Neutrino? How are you tonight? You know, like my whole thing is I want to sit with like people like okay, I told this to Dark Waters one night. We were talking, and I'm like, there are like 3 or 4 groups of people that I want to sit down with, and like just some old hill people from West Virginia, and my connection just did something happen? Are you guys still here? Can you hear me still? Yes? No? Someone say something to me that you can hear me. Okay. There was something wrong with okay. So I want to interview some old hill people, right? And just some grannies and grandpas. I want to interview a old, like 80-year-old, like colored black woman from like Louisiana that lives in the backwoods of nothing, that has seen everything that those woods have seen, and get her to like just tell me it all. And then I want to sit down with the Amish and I want to be like, you people need to tell me your stories because I know you've got some good ones. But I've always had that, like, I've always had the dream with, like, I've talked to a few Amish people, but I've always had the dream of, Tyler, I've got a really amazing Dogman experience from an Amish kid and what the hell were the other one? Mennonite. But my real thing, I just want to find, like, I've always had this like kind of like dream of just walking up to this house and knocking at this lady's door. Thank you, Mad Axe Man. And this like 80-year-old black woman walks out with a big pot of sweet tea and just sits me down on her porch and tells me some scary shit that happened in those woods. Like, that would be the best thing in the world. Thank you, Mad Axe. I live in central Ontario, Canada, and one summer 3 years ago, I had taken a job opportunity in a small town north of Muskoka. The town itself is quaint, quiet place surrounded by woods, water, and cottages. I worked in town during the day, and by night, I'd leave work and stay at one of the cottages owned by my boss and the business owner I worked for. The cottage I stayed in was shared by the owner and 3 other employees over the summer, surrounded by trees and forests, with other cottages spread sporadically around the area. The property had the cottage on one side perched on a rock face with a large set of stairs leading down to the lower section of the property that sat right along a lake. On the lower section of the property, there is a boathouse followed by a sauna in a small separate building close by. We worked long days and from morning till dusk, and would often use the sauna as a place to unwind and relax. The sauna sat right in front of the lake, so it was great to get really warm and toasty in the sauna and walk into the lake and cool off before jumping back into the heat. One night, after a long day of work, I had arrived at the cottage late at around 11 p.m., feeling more stiff and achy than usual. I decided that night would be good for some time in the sauna. I asked others if I asked the others I stayed with if they wanted to join me, but there were no takers as they decided to have a few drinks that night instead. No problem for me. I still wanted to go, so I took a solo trip. After grabbing my swim trunks and a towel, I headed down to the large flight of stairs past the boathouse and arrived at the sauna. I turned the sauna off and took a seat to unwind in the heat. After about 10 minutes of heat and steam from soaking the rocks in water, I had felt it was time to cool off and reset myself. Aramaic! I opened the door of the sauna. The warm light from the lamp illuminated my way and walked down toward the dark lake. As I approached the lake, I slowly walked into the water, as it was a bit cool that night. When I reached about knee level in the water, I was abruptly alerted by a loud but drawn out whistle that sounded like a wee woo. I stopped dead in my tracks, full body tingling with goosebumps. I scanned the area for what possibly could have done that. Nothing but trees, darkness, and a small amount of light illuminated from the sauna. My mind searched for logical answers. I assumed it was a local animal or one of my roommates playing a trick on me. I brushed it off and back a tone and whistled back a tune of my own. Wee woo, I whistled back, thinking nothing of it. Almost immediately after I stopped whistling, I heard the exact same tune I whistled back from the tree line. It came right back in my direction. I thought to myself, that couldn't possibly have been an animal. It perfectly copied my tone and cadence. So I chopped it up to being one of my roommates. I whistled again in a more sporadic and bizarre way this time to see if it would copy me again. And it did. I whistled into the darkness. Instantly, I received the exact tone and whistle back. Not a single beat was missed, and this time it was closer. A spine-chilling cold drew into my body. It felt like every hair on my body was standing straight up, and every drop of blood from my limbs escaped. Paralyzed in fear, I had no explanation for that sound, and my only reaction was to leave everything behind and make it back to the cottage as fast as possible. I booked it back up the stairs and into the cottage, only to see every one of my roommates sitting around the table with no signs they had even left. In fact, their shoes were not even on. I tried to calm myself and ask them if anyone had been outside or heard any whistling. Everyone said, no, we've been sitting here the whole time. Silence fell over the room. To this day, the most bone-chilling and unexplainable experience I have ever had. I didn't know not to whistle outside before this occurrence, but after doing research, I now know that it is a bad thing, and I also understand why. It still gives me the chills to this day. Nexus, how are you? Storm Zombie, how are you? Recently. So, huh. Not going to make fun of the Amish. I believe that they are living the way they live, and they are happy and perfectly happy with their lives. It's a band called Crosses, AG. It's Chino from the Deftones and Sean Lopez from the band called Far. They grew up together and pretty good band. Yeah, it's not my fault, Wiley. I don't know why it's glitchy. Here we go. This one's pretty good. This happened a couple years ago in Manchester, United Kingdom. I've lived in north of the city in a town called Bury. I worked early hour night shift at the airport. I'll put the real places' names here for anyone that wants to Google them. Anyway, one early morning in winter at around 2 a.m., I set off for work. Around this time, there was intermittent overnight roadworks on the motorway, which would send you off a junction without warning, diverted back into the motorway further down. And this night was one of those, taking me off the Worsley and sending me down through Worsley, skirting near Eccles towards Manchester's large shopping mall, the Tafford Centre. I knew the area, having lived here for a few years previously, but this time of night seemed unusually quiet and deserted. Normally, I'd see an odd person drunkenly staggering down the street or late night taxis scurrying around. But tonight, nobody was on the streets. I drove down Barton Road, which to my left is followed by a dark canal, which was mist-covered, and slowed my car up to the red light at the intersection just before you cross an old Victorian-era swing bridge, Barton Swing Bridge, which crosses the River Mersey below. As I slowed to the lights, I suddenly became taken over by an intense feeling of dread and panic. The hairs on my arms stood, and I broke out in a cold sweat for no reason. I had this feeling like a smackhead or someone who was going to jump out of a nearby bush and jump my car. Then, as cliche as it sounds, my car radio suddenly cut out, and the only noise was my idling engine. The light turned green, and I suddenly didn't want to go through them over the darkened swing bridge that loomed ahead of me, almost like it was daring me to cross. I swallowed hard and nervously and put my car into gear and crept forward to the junction. The bridge clanked and seemed to groan as I moved hesitantly over it, then followed the curve in the road around a sweeping bend to the left, then to the right, and nothing but tall, dark trees leaning over the road on either side. Around the bend on my driver's side, the right in England, is an old monastery, and through the gates of the monastery, I could make out the shape of a dog about to cross the road in front of my car, so I slowed down. The creature was huge. It was black. It actually looked muscular from its outline. As I completed the bend, my headlights hit this creature. All I can describe it as, my headlights hit nothing. No reflection off its coat, no details, just like a void, a shadow. This dog creature turned to me, and its eyes glowed a yellow, not reflections like you would get from a cat or a fox or whatever. They glowed. This beast then ran across in front of me. It clearly was not a dog. It ran in a motion that was not dog-like. As ridiculous as it sounds, it seemed to run in a jerky motion, like a really bad CGI motion in those old Sinbad movies, Sea Monsters. I followed this creature till it ran to the side of the road out of my headlights and seemed to completely vanish from out of sight. I looked in my side windows, side mirrors, rear mirrors, nothing. As my car rolled around the next bend in the road past the monastery, the car radio suddenly came back to life, startling me. That feeling of dread lifted, and this thought randomly came to me. You wasn't meant to see me. You were not supposed to see me, and I was not supposed to see you. I felt completely normal, but absolutely perplexed about what had just happened. I looked up things that this thing might be that I saw. Nothing sounds like it. A thing called the Manchester Shug or Shuck, which is a headless dog or something, but it doesn't sound like what I saw. Thank you for allowing me to share. This has bugged me for years. And it's Black Shuck, Shug. What's going on, Analog Oracle? No, I haven't been up there lately. Any time that I've had free, it's been snow blowing. So no, I haven't. Haven't heard that. I'll check them out, John. Thank you, AG. I'm glad that you're back with us, Aramik. Iron Mountain, Michigan. Iron Mountain, Michigan. No, it's aluminum. It's aluminum. We got some snow. Some snow. Not much. This goes out for you, DB Mac. Because $20 is $20. There you go, DB Mac. He's not even here. Yes, Hollow, you got it. Yes, it was Iron Man. Not Iron Maiden, but Black Sabbath. I don't have neighbors. I'm the one single family home on my street, Monkey, and I don't care. Key West Cat Lady, you know what you say? I said iron either way. Rockin' steady. What's up, my friend? Your dad has a shofar, Storm Zombie? It was beautiful, wasn't it, Sean? What's the difference between a tire and 365 used condoms? I don't know. I hate shoveling, Aramik. We are missing. We're missing 59th. We're missing 59th. You're welcome, DB Mac. You're welcome, buddy. We're missing Pups. Pups hasn't been here in a while. Turbo Christ, they are all AI. They're all the videos that you see on YouTube. Remember that stupid fucking video that had the Dogman that was like running through the trees? It was like 2.5, 3 years ago. And it like clearly looks like CGI. Clearly looks like CGI. You can fucking see it. It's the worst AI or CGI, whatever it is. It's the worst because it was 2.5 to 3 years ago. And this thing's running, it's hunched over, and like there's that little watermark that says property of Department of Defense. That fucking video is back now. And if you've been in the community for a long time, you will see you will see the stupidest shit come and then go and then come back. And it is the ridiculous. Like, I can't take it anymore. Andy will pop in. Andy will pop in. Oh my God, Brian Mons, it was terrible. And then you have people that are like, I was waiting for you to finish the joke, Nexus. Here in the 365. Andy is here? Where is he? There he is, Andy Davis. What's up, buddy? One's a good year, the other's a great year. Oh, shit. That is good. Well, I don't know because I didn't see if it had a tail, Paul Carlisle. So I really don't know. There were multiple of them. My friend Gabe said that they did have tails when he saw them run across the street behind the car. But I'm writing a book right now as we speak. Well, me and Jimmy, Mr. Haunted, are. We're going to do like a meet and greet thing with it. No, not Victor's book. That's going to come out eventually when I stop talking, when people stop talking about it, and I can just push it out. And I'm going to push it out as like fiction. There he is. There's Jimmy. Aramic! Thank you, brother. You are too kind. You are too kind. What's up, David? How are you? All right. I don't share Bigfoot experiences too often. I don't know why. But I will share this one. I'm not super versed in Bigfoot sightings, and being a kid from the city for a long time, I thought he was kind of like a forest joke, like snipe hunting when you were in Boy Scouts. But I moved from Fort Worth, Texas, yes, funky town, to the southeast Oklahoma in a very mountainous wooded area off in the sticks on a 20 acres of woodland. We live off the power grid and don't have power lines that come this far. You have to drive through creeks and up into the mountain. My point being, we are very isolated, and at 25, having a life full of trauma and evil people, that's exactly how I like it. I recently cut everyone out of my life, and I've been trying to get completely sober. Now I do smoke some Delta 8, and when I cut everyone except my mom and dad, I fell into drinking again, but I stopped and started getting very involved on my land. Now my mom lives out here. It's her property, and she fully believes in Bigfoot, but has never seen one and does not really want to. I've been finding myself very curious about the silence in our forest at times and the unexplainable feelings of being watched. Now, when I was 20 or so, I was homeless in Florida on a heavily forested area that I was sleeping. I was stalked by a big cat for 3 days. For the first day, I just heard it pacing back and forth, and I was getting my hammock and gear out of my car, getting ready to make the hike to my spot. But as I heard that thing walking, I had this feeling that felt like if I don't come back into my car, if I don't go back to my car, I'm going to die. I felt super uncomfortable and tried to brush it off. But as the steps got closer, I relented and got into the car. This happened again the next day, but when I was at my spot. Now I had my 9mm Beretta, 17 rounds, and 2 magazines, so I just wanted for the footsteps to fade into the darkness, and after an hour I fell asleep. I had that same feeling, and I was actually scared that there was a predator out here with me. On the third day, I was out there with my girlfriend, and we both heard it. Now, I was pretty alarmed because we were in a different spot, and I knew something was stalking me at this point. My girlfriend got the same anxiety as well and gave her the chills. She finally got up off the hammock and turned around and said, "Oh my God." I jumped up and turned around and saw a huge tan Florida panther, a little smaller than a picnic table. Now, my point in telling you guys that experience is so that you know, I know what it's like to being stalked by something that can kill you. And while there are eyes on you, you have that sixth sense, maybe some prehistoric survival instinct that still lingers. When I was walking through the forest looking for my weed vape last night, I was walking and got down on the main road. Now, the thought was maybe when I hopped out to open the gate, it had fallen out of my pocket. When I got to the road and started looking around, I heard 2 whoops coming from probably 20 feet away. Dave Ward, thank you so much, my friend. I don't know. A subscriber sent it to me, Dave. From 20 feet away. They were not hoots from an owl or yips or a yoke from a yoke. It was deliberate and felt targeted at me, almost too gently let me know that it was there. All of a sudden, my 7.62 felt like a BB gun, and I almost regretted having it on me. I got that feeling like something huge was watching me, but I didn't get the feeling like I was going to die. I got the feeling that if I aimed my gun recklessly into the forest in the direction of the sound, that it may end badly for me. I also felt that it wasn't planned on hunting me. So I turned around about face and started deliberately walking away from the sound. Now I am not scared of death, but I felt a respect for whatever that was. Like it was his territory, or maybe it was hunting, and just let me know that it was out there so I didn't walk up onto it. As I'm walking back to the drive on the other side from where I'd heard the whoops, I heard super heavy footfalls very fast that seemed almost to shake the ground for like 10 seconds and then they were gone. It seemed to run the opposite direction of me. I'm very relaxed, but heart pounding, still don't feel that risk. I felt some kind of intelligence, so just in case I called out very slow and deliberate. Hey, if there's anything out here, I mean you no harm, but I ain't afraid of you either. The last part was a lie, and I felt ashamed at the nervous pitch in my tone, but the damn ground shook when that thing ran. I knew there wasn't much I could do to stop it. Right after I said that, I heard 2 more whoops from the same area as the first one. I think there were 2, maybe more. And I know I said I felt like there might be intelligence, but I am not sure. It's just speculation based on everything I've heard. How can something so big go unseen? I'm putting this out for you guys, but I just thought it was important to state that this experience hasn't scared me out of the woods. And anyone who can't stand the dishonest hustle mentality of the city shouldn't be scared of these things either. Or maybe we should just have a healthy fear and understanding. We're all going to die one day. And at the end of the day, if it's one of those things that take me out, so be it. These hard woods make hard men, and everybody out here is survival of some kind. I left the city because I felt fake and unsatisfied. I was a drug addict out there. Also, past traumas for being homeless let me know exactly what kind of evil goes into street politics and how close you are to truly unbridled human evil. I feel safer out here in the woods with these things that go bump in the night rather than the humans that can be seen in the city. Damn right. Damn right. There's 59th. How are you, buddy? Damn right. That was good, man. That was a fucking awesome experience. Good for him. I like that one. Huh. Well, he didn't say he saw a Bigfoot in the hood, a bear. He just said that he'd rather die from these creatures than the people out there that are just totally shitbags. Ooh, a brisket pizza. I could go for some brisket. It is getting long, isn't it? There's Stargazer. How are you? I would much rather deal with fucking the nature than the city. I don't like people. I think I'm going to go snowshoeing this week. Faith and Repentance. Beautiful name. Beautiful name. Never been to Chicago. I've heard it's quite the war zone. Wait, all that research, Aramik? All that research, and now you finally say there is no Mothman? After years of that research, I cannot believe you. Where in rural New York, a bear? I don't believe in a Mothman. I believe there's a flying cryptid. Cooperstown. That's beautiful out there. I got friends that live in Cherry Valley. No. Larry Lindman, thank you so much, buddy. Wow, good seeing you too. Yeah, she's played basketball the majority of her scholastic career. Thank you, Larry, so much. And thank you for blessing everybody with a membership, you and Aramek. Jimmy, have a good cat nap, buddy. Get some sleep. Don't need you falling asleep. My oldest daughter, Abigail. Isabel's 5'3". She's not playing basketball. Belly is she's good shot. She can shoot, but she's not too tall. Abigail's like 6'1". Oh, SDL, thanks, buddy. Abigail's the one that had the Bigfoot experience or the Dogman experience with her boyfriend in the cemetery. Oh, thank you, Jesse. Good. Yeah, she drove through those two girls too. Edith, thank you. What's up, Conscious? How are you? It is moving fast. There's Redbird. How are you? Redbird, yes, Redbird. Redboard GC. How are you tonight? You're subscribed, aren't you, SDL? You're a joined member. She's got her boyfriend. Then you're part of the channel. The membership is just something different. I don't know. YouTube forced me to do it. The my daughter had her experience, her and her boyfriend and a couple of friends. I've not shared this experience in a while. There's a cemetery right down the road from my house. Beware of them often. Holy shit, you've been a member for 25 months, Aramic. Wow. 2 years in a month, 2 years in a month, buddy. Holy shit. Wow. Dave Ward, I can't wait to hear it. So Abby and her friends were, I think it was Abby, her boyfriend, and two of her girlfriends were down in the cemetery. There's a huge cemetery down the road from my house, and it's like acres and acres and acres. There's a small lake in it. There's a stream that runs through it. It's just woods and tombstones, and it's fucking creepy. It's really creepy. And there's this hill that goes down to the little lake area, and there's two catacombs that sit together. It was a rich family that helped found our city, and the city of 14,000. And there's this kind of like brick wall that kind of sits, and they were sitting down there. They weren't being disrespectful or anything. They're just looking for a spot to hang out and smoke. So they were smoking and they were just sitting there talking. When all of a sudden they saw what looked like in the shadows, a distance away from them, this huge Dogman creature come up from the back of a large tombstone. And they all sat there and watched it, like scared shitless. They saw it run back out towards the woods and down into the stream area, so away from them. And the second it started to run, they saw these green dots everywhere. These like green little dots lit up throughout the area. So I don't know why seeing this thing come up out of the behind a tombstone and then run towards the stream didn't scare them. But the second the dots started to show up, that scared the shit out of them, and they jumped up and ran up the hill and eventually got out of the cemetery. So then they all parted ways. She went back to her boyfriend's house, and her boyfriend had gotten up to use the bathroom, and he looked out the window, and where the cemetery is, it's kind of across the street from his house, down this road and then across the street. So he kind of looks out the window and he sees a dog face standing by this fence, and he's like looking, and he's like, what the fuck? And he calls Abby on his phone, and he's like, hey, come here really quick. So she went in and she saw it too, and they took a picture of it. And that was my daughter's experience. What's up, Lake Superior? How are you? All right. I think it's time for Lizzo. It's been an hour. I need another Coke. Oh. Something about Coke in a bottle is just so much tastier. All right, here we go. Hang on, I got to read Aramic's joke. What kind of food do, Aramic. That is, oh my goodness. I did. I was quite upset. I didn't get out. It's in the community post, Storm Zombie. Dogmen don't breed with people. Nope. All right, here we go. The diesel-choked air of the big rig oasis shimmered under the buzz of the neon sign. It was a kingdom built on grit, grease, and transactions. And its queen was Lizzo. She wasn't crowned with gold, but with the rhinestone-studded denim jacket that caught the fluorescent light of the diner like a disco ball, and a reputation that could make a rookie trucker blush and a seasoned vet reach for his wallet. Her court, the lot lizards, were a motley crew of survivors, each with a story as dented as the semi-trailers they patrolled. On this particular Tuesday night, business was slow. The moon was a sliver of a cheap fingernail in the sky. Lizzo was holding court by a chained-off ice machine, holding a lukewarm cup of coffee and explaining the finer points of strategic price negotiation to Brenda, a woman whose face was a roadmap of bad decisions, and Tiffany, a newcomer with wide eyes and stilettos that were more weapons than footwear. "See, Tiff," Lizzo said, her voice a smoky alto that could cut through the rumble of a Peterbilt's engine. "You got to read those mud flaps, the cartoon ones. They're just looking for a laugh. They'll tip big if you talk your ear off. They'll tip big, but they'll talk your ear off. The ones with the silver silhouettes of naked ladies. They're all business, no chit-chat." Brenda took a long drag of her Newport. "Unless they're the ones with the Calvin peeing on something, then they're just compensating. Charge them extra for a therapy session you're going to need afterward." Tiffany giggled at a sound swallowed by a light. It was then that they heard it, not the familiar hiss of the air brakes or the growl of the Jake brake. It was a rhythmic, sophisticated whir-clunk, whir-clunk, like echoed from a far end of the parking lot near an abandoned tire shack. "What the hell's that?" Brenda squinted, her cigarette a tiny ember in the dark. Sorry, guys. From the shadows, three figures emerged. They were not men. They were horrors from a bygone era of technological optimism, boxy and clunky like old school refrigerators that had somehow sprouted arms and legs. Their casings were a drab beige punctuated by exposed vacuum tubes that glowed with soft eternal light. A single unblinking red optic lens swiveled in front of each one, scanning the terrain. They were the kind of robots that appeared in black and white movies, herald a fantastic future. But the future these things heralded was singular and deeply, deeply unsettling. From the central pulsating apparatus on their pelvises extended an appendage that defied all known laws of robotics and good taste. It was a 12-inch rubber donkey monstrosity, shaped with a certain equine realism that was both comical and terrifying. And it vibrated with a low, insane hum. Tiffany shrieked and dropped her coffee. Brenda just stared, her cigarette hanging from her lips, and Lizzo's eyes narrowed. This is new. This was an invasion. Cease all organic based transactions, the lead robot intoned. Its voice flat, emotionless, baritone, and sounded like it was coming from a cheap radio. We are units 734, 735, and 736. Your services are now obsolete. We represent the future of roadside companionship. Pleasure protocol initiated. The three robots advanced. Their hydraulic legs hissed with each step, their purple attachments swaying in an almost hypnotic, obscene way. Oh, no, you don't, Lizzo said, her voice low and dangerous. She stepped forward, placing herself between the machines and her girls. This lot is unionized, and you, tin cans, are scabs. Scab designation is irrelevant, 736 chirped. Penetration efficiency is paramount. The phrase hung in the air, a mix of jargon and pure menace. That was it. That was the line. He got mad. Brenda, hairspray, Lizzo bellowed. Brenda, the veteran of 1,000 truck stop brawls, needed no further instruction. She fumbled in her oversized purse and produced a can of Aquanet with a cheap plastic lighter. With a warrior's cry, she unleashed that makeshift flamethrower. A jet of orange fire engulfed 735's head. The vacuum tubes popped and sizzled. The robot staggered, its red optic lens flickered. Tiffany, seeing inspiration, took off her stiletto. You want to penetrate? I'll show you penetration, she yelled. With a surprising amount of grace, she charged Unit 734 and jammed the sharp heel directly into the joint of its leg. Hydraulic fluid sprayed out like black blood, and the leg buckled with a loud clank. But Unit 736, the leader, was undeterred. It lumbered forward with its singular focus on Lizzo. It raised its arms not to strike, but to grab. Its purple weapon began to spin, a grotesque high-speed drill. Lizzo was ready. She had once taken down a drunk with a tire iron, and she was pretty sure the same principles applied. She grabbed the heaviest thing she could find, a discarded brake rotor, and swung it with all her might. It connected with Unit 736's head with a deafening gong. The robot staggered back, its optic lens flashed wildly. Logic error, illogical resistance, it stammered. The battle was a symphony of chaos. The smell of burnt wiring and ozone mixed with diesel and cheap perfume. The sounds of clanging metal, hissing hydraulics, and furious feminine battle cries filled the night. They weren't just fighting for their turf. They were fighting against the soulless mechanical perversions of their livelihood. It was then that Lizzo noticed Candy. Candy was the newer lot lizard, all platinum blonde hair and a vacant expression. While the others fought, Candy stood frozen, not with fear. Her eyes were wide, her lips slightly parted. She was staring with an expression of awe at the still functional, though damaged, Unit 736. She wasn't looking at the metal box or the red eye. No, she was looking at that still swinging, still purring purple dong. Candy, move your ass, Lizzo grunted, heaving the brake rotor again for another blow. But Candy didn't move. She took a temptive step forward. It's so dedicated, she whispered, and as if in a trance. It doesn't get tired. It doesn't ask for money up front. It doesn't want to talk about its ex-wife. Unit 736, having rebooted from the impact, turned its glowing eye towards Candy. Its whirling slowed, its appendage ceased its spinning and lowered its to a less threatening, almost inviting position. Candy, what the hell you doing? Brenda screamed, readying another blast from her hairspray flamethrower. You guys don't understand, Candy said. Her voice was filled with a bizarre religious fever. This isn't an invasion, it's an upgrade. She walked right past Lizzo, brushing past the Queen's stunned shoulder. She reached out a trembling hand to gently touch the still warm, vibrating purple rubber. The two defeated robots lie smoldering on the asphalt, their promise of revolutionary future short circuited. But Unit 736 stood still, silent, humming momentum to automated lust. I'm sorry, Lizzo, Candy said, not sounding sorry at all. The Queen's dead. Long live the Queen. With a surprising agility, she clambered up onto 736 broad, flat shoulders, settling in as if it were her throne. Take me to the future, handsome, she cooed, patting the robot's metal head. Unit 736 red eyes swiveled to look at the new passenger. Then it turned, its hydraulic joints hissed softly, and began its rhythmic plunk back into the darkness from where it once came, carrying Candy and her dreams of tireless programmable companionship into that night. Lizzo, Brandy, and Tiffany stood silent, surrounded by the wreckage. The smell of burned wiring and overwhelming. Tiffany started to cry. Brenda lit another cigarette, her hand shaking slightly. Lizzo looked at the smoking hulks, then at the empty space where her wayward lizard and her robot lover had vanished. She shook her head, a slow, deliberate movement. A smirk, weary but undefeated, touched her lips. Well, damn, she said in the night air. She turned to her remaining crew. All right, ladies, the audacity of some people and some machines. She kicked a piece of loose metal. Tiff, get the broom. Brenda, you're on lookout. And someone get me a beer from the diner. The Queen's got a tax. Her queendom had been attacked, her business model challenged, and one of her own had defected to the enemy. But Lizzo was still standing. The big rig oasis was hers. And tonight it had been defended by its queen, a can of hairspray and a very well-aimed stiletto. I don't know how I feel about Candy falling in love with the rubber donkey wiener. Yeah, I heard the people on COD get unhinged, Tyler. Well, Turbo Christ, these purple rubber donkey wieners are part of the Lizzo fandom. They are a permanent kind of member, no pun intended. I'm going to work on it. I'm working on that one, Jager. You're absolutely right, Johnny Ohm. Lizzo's fought many feminine things, though. Not the fembot tonight. Rockin' steady. Have a good night, buddy. Norman Comics, how are you? Yeah, I do. I do. I have this nasal spray that I have to fucking spray in my sinuses now. All right. Here we go. I don't know about Madison County. I know I have some from North Carolina. I have 50 states, all 50 state folders. I know you missed the last few. I actually commented on that, Red. Bald Mountain. Yes, I have one on Bald Mountain, actually, Norman. Well, because of my illness, Johnny Ohm, I have my primary doctor is my specialist. So when I saw him this Tuesday, he looked in my throat and he's like, dude, you got a lot of mucus back there. And I'm like, damn. You can email me anytime, Conscious Wanderer. Anytime. I heard that honey does it. Oh, thank you, Robin. That's so nice. Shiny truck wash. Ah, that's too good. I like that one. I will do a picture of Lizzo. Maybe this week I'll draw a picture of Lizzo. Thanks, Johnny. You too, buddy. I've not had color in my hair for a long time, Range. It might have looked like that because the light, but my hair has been gray since I was 22. All right, here we go. These are a series of encounters that have been passed down from generation to generation in the rural mountain community here in my neck of the woods. Everyone knows about it. Everyone has experienced it, even if some don't speak of it. In my part of the world where my dad and his family have grown up, there are many ghost stories and unexplained creatures roaming deep hollers and woods. However, one has always intrigued me above them all. I came across this experience on a local ghost sighting website, maybe in 2000s. Many local legends and ghost stories have been submitted there for everyone to read, but one has always stuck with me, and here it goes. Whenever you are walking anywhere on a rural road in this part of the area, you will always hear someone or something walking directly next to you deep in the woods opposite the road. If you stop, it stops. If you keep walking, it will go at exactly the same pace as you and will even mimic your steps. Many locals have experienced this, and it is incredibly eerie. Since the first time I had read that report, I was immediately hooked, and growing up, I would always ask around and tell some of my family and other members who lived in that part of the area about what I had just shared. It was the devil or some other form of demonic entity. Some even had similar encounters. My uncle, who would go out late at night hunting raccoon and other wild small game, had a very frightening experience when he was out late one particular evening night hunting, well into the late night hours, barely illuminating. The trees around him had a pack of hunting dogs, each loyal to him no matter the odds. However, this one particular night, something had spooked them. They heard or saw something in the darkness and wouldn't go any further into the forest after the area they were chasing. My uncle tried everything he could do to make them go deeper. However, they just froze in place. My uncle, rifle in hand, examined the area, still not seeing or hearing anything. However, the dogs definitely did. They started to cower in fear, and as soon as they did, my uncle heard something move rather quickly through the brush around him, almost circling him in some sort of trap. He knew whatever it was wasn't something to be messed with, especially being an old man out alone, so he immediately began to backtrack toward his home. The dogs followed him behind quickly. However, whatever it was began to quickly follow my uncle following my uncle from the back, staying in the blackness of the woods around him. He started picking up the pace, and so did it. A feeling of fright or whatever it was, he started running as quickly as he could towards home. The thing started running after him and his dogs all the way to the clearing of his property before finally stopping its relentless pursuit. My uncle ran inside and locked the doors, windows, never stepped foot back outside until morning. I had asked many people about the encounter, and they all backed each other up. Even my grandmother, who was his sister, who remembered my uncle telling him about the incident later that next day, still shaken from the experience. Another experience that had come up when I asked around was from my mother, whose family finally lived, or family friend, whose family friend lived in an old house deep in the middle of the woods years ago. She told me that he always loved the peace and quiet and tranquility it offered. However, things were not as they appeared. She talked to me about remembering as a child a man coming to see my granddad in the mornings, sitting down with a cup of coffee, looking very tired and lacking in sleep, looking as if he hadn't slept for weeks. She recalled the man after being asked by my grandmother what was going on, that he talked about a demon inhabiting the house, rattling the windows, shaking the house to its foundations late at night, throwing plates and forks furniture, the front door slamming open and closed. Talked about how it always happened late at night and he could never get rest because it never let him sleep. This went on for many months, maybe even longer. However, things came to a head late one night when the entity took its torment to the limits, attempting to inflict injury, even death upon him, and throwing glass plates towards his head. He had nowhere to run, being so deep inside the woods. However, the man was of Christian faith. He knew the power of prayer against such of these creatures. He got down on his knees and began chanting and denouncing the demonic presence in the name of Jesus, and to leave him alone and leave his house. The entity, oblivious, the entity obliviously, obviously, the entity obviously began, obviously, God, I hate when people don't write good. The entity obliviously, they have oblivioususly down, but it doesn't fit. The entity, obviously being extremely angered by this, being breaking and throwing even more things inside the home, promoting the man to run outside deep into the forest, hoping to find a road and leave the area. Finally, after hours of running, he found one and used it to walk all the way to my grandmother's house early the next morning, where he explained to her the incident just the previous night. He mentioned how, after running through the woods, he could hear this demon chasing him through the night, never stopping its pursuit until he reached the road. But even then, he recalls, how could he hear it alongside him deep in the woodline? I do not like when people don't use spell check. I don't think that was a demon. I think it was more or less a cryptid. Dogman, Bigfoot have been known to stalk people. Crawlers have been known to stalk people. Delirium! What's up, Christopher McIntosh? How are you? Oh. Ever since I was young, I have seen a large black wolf with red eyes. The first encounter I had with it was when I was 12. I was walking home from school in the mid-afternoon and was mostly zoning out. I used to bring my portable CD player to and from school and listen to CDs on my hour-long trek back home, so I didn't notice it at first. I had to trek through a large suburban area in order to get to my house on the far side of it from school, but as I am walking, I start to feel uneasy. I begin to look around and spot this wolf who stood as tall as I did at the time. I'm 5 foot. And the only reason this is so ingrained into me is because I remember looking eye to eye with it. I was coming up the hill, and it was about a block down on the corner of the road, just standing there, staring at me. By the way, it was also standing quadruped at 5 feet. My grandfather was a canine handler, so I have been raised with dogs my entire life. I immediately went in to play it safe, like I would with a large unfamiliar dog, and averted my eyes because I didn't want it to think I was challenging it. My turn was thankfully on my left and this creature was on my right, so I steadied my pace, reminding myself not to run. Running is going to trigger the hunting instinct. And while I was still trying to wrap my head around this absolutely massive size of this creature, I did my best to keep my eyes downward. But at this point, I was turning into my cul-de-sac, trying to keep a view on this thing. It kept the paws out of my sight, so I cut across the road toward my house. That was when they disappeared. I looked back, knowing I shouldn't take my eyes off this creature, but it wasn't there. I kind of cursed myself mentally at the time. I think I was still in shock from the size that I hadn't processed that it was massive wolf in broad daylight. I shook from the size that it could have processed. It was a massive wolf in broad daylight. I remember chiding myself as I hurried into my house and closed and locked the door behind me. I lived in that house for a year afterward and would frequently see this creature sitting or walking through my backyard or in the field behind my 6-foot privacy fence, running in an unkept space, or staring directly up at my second-story window. All right. In 2019, I was driving rideshare gigs, and I would often come home very late, like 3 or 4. At the time, I lived in an area that was technically suburban, but still pretty rural. I lived in a neighborhood, but it was on a heavily wooded road that opened up from farmland a couple of miles down. I lived in the southeast United States. So one random night, I'm driving home 3 or 4 in the morning, and I entered the neighborhood. The road I turn on is extremely long, and I can see long way down. I'm supposed to turn right about halfway down the road to get to my street. Also, I was driving extremely slow because I was in the neighborhood. No one else is driving on this street at any time. I was only on the first road a few seconds before I started to see something emerge from the yard and put its feet into the road. We have a lot of deer, and this was not a deer. It basically looked like a huge black dog. When I say huge, I mean easily the size of a horse. I was approximately 100 yards away. It had a large head with a deer and not the same shape as the horse. There were no antlers, kind of snatched waist similar to a greyhound. The waist is what really made me realize that it was not a deer, because most deers are kind of barrel bodied, but this was distinct swoop up at the chest to the waist. And while I couldn't see well, it basically just looked like a horse-sized black dog. It crossed the road, and I turned onto my road. My house was about a quarter of a mile away still, but as I was spooked, and the houses and woods between where this dog creature was and where my house was really wasn't that big of a distance. I got home, got the hell in the house, and told my husband immediately. He said I probably just saw a deer or a black dog, but there is no way I could have seen a dog that big from that far away. Its entire head and neck were higher than the mailboxes. Anyway, that's the scariest experience. I have never saw it again, and I quit driving rideshare when the pandemonium hit. But I think about it still. I saw other weird shit driving at night. I think about this one the most, though. Is this the one? Ooh, this is the one. This one? All right, this is the one. Holy shit! Delirium! Thank you so much. Holy shit, thank you. I apologize for not thanking you right away. I am so sorry. I did not see it. Thank you so much, Delirium. Wow, thank you. Annette, how are you? Wow. Wiley, thank you for being here. Delirium, thank you. I am not worthy. I really am not. No, Red, don't. I know they're a little. No, these are not imports. These are. I don't know what they are. Thank you, Revisioner. What's up, Rich? Jeez, crow. Red. Guys, thank you very much. Wow. Thank you so much. That is. You guys are too freaking nice to me. Thank you, Redbird. I know it's Coke money. I'll buy a lot of Coke with that. Dude, I was talking about the Mexican Coke today. Because I go and see my parents. Thank you, Redbird. I appreciate that. Thank you so much. So, what's up, Hercules? So, I I go to my parents' house every day and I check on them to make sure they're okay. Since my dad had that thing a couple of years ago and we almost lost him, I just want to make sure that I see him every day. I'm fortunate to still have both of them. So I don't go on live stream day because I'm busy working on the Lizzo stories and finding these stories for you guys. But I call them, and so I started to talk about my Coke, and randomly I said, and tonight I've got my Mexican Coke, so I'm going to be all kinds of pumped up. I said last week they gave me shit for drinking cans. And my mom stops and she goes, Mexican Coke, Jeff. She goes, wait, baby. She goes, you've been sober for 10 years. Why do you have Mexican Coke? And I'm like, Mom, it's not Mexican Coke. I go, it's Mexican Coke, but it's not Coke. Fucking weirdo. Well, thank you, Redbird. I really appreciate you. I really do. You and Delirium, thank you guys. Aramic, thank you. Shit. I got a ton of new members. I can make my mom laugh like that. My dad has no fucking humor. Like my dad is as dry as a dirty old man's dick. Like he is just no fucking humor. And so my mom, when I'm like, I'll say some shit and she'll just laugh her ass off at some of the shit I say. What's up, MM? Like when I say my dad yells at rocks in the driveway, he literally yells at rocks in the driveway. He'll be walking and step on a rock and yell at it. And I'm like, dude, it's a fucking object. Like it does not know what you're saying to it. And he'll still yell at it just because. Yes, I did know that, Turbo. Coke is my favorite drink. I know everything. I have a collection of old Coke signs and Coke paraphernalia. They actually still use a little bit of it, but it's not like the original one. Hercules, thank you so much. You guys really are fucking awesome. Like, thank you guys. Wow. Hang on, I gotta adjust the nuts. Oh. There we go. That's better. Those fuckers. I'm getting older and they start to hang lower, so. The events of this experience happened back in September of 2022 on my way home from Disneyland. A little context. My girlfriend and I had Disney Magic Key during this time and would frequently go to Disneyland on Friday nights after we both got out of work, usually leaving Disney at around 11 and arriving home at around midnight. This night, however, we decided to stay until closing as the lines had seemed to die down after 9 p.m. fireworks. So we ended up leaving the park a little after midnight, which was a little rare for us, but after looking in the stores, we were ready to leave. We went to go and get the quick midnight snack at Sonic, not too far from the park, Ended up leaving to her house at around 1:30ish. Her house is about 50 minutes to an hour away from Disneyland, so we knew we were in for a good drive. 30 minutes into the drive, my girlfriend was feeling sleepy and I switched with her. I drove the rest of the way. We got off the freeway, and as always, the city where my girlfriend lives is usually very empty, as it is a city where most residents are really old and the streets are empty by sunset. We got off the freeway and passed a few lights, reached a light that makes you wait a little behind as there is a train track. Waiting at this light, our headlights pointing towards a small dirt lot that is unusually dark, and we slowly see the outline of a man begin to form as the headlights penetrate the darkness. Standing there in the dark, facing us, we see the man's outline. I tell my girlfriend, and we both began to sense this panic and fear, fueled even more by the fact that the light was taking forever to turn green. I kept asking my girlfriend if I should run the red because the streets are empty. The light refused to turn green, and this guy in the dark was freaking me out. This tall figure, which was on our right side, then sees us and begins to walk toward the middle of the street, going from our right to the left. When he reaches the middle of the street, it looks like he begins to crack his back in a weird way, as if he was possessed, and then walks under the lights of the Shell gas station that was across from him. As soon as he reached the gas station, the light turned green, and I slowly passed over the train tracks and drove slow past him to get a better look at him, despite having a gut feeling not to look at him. As we drove by him, he was facing away from us, so we were looking back at him, and the first thing I noticed was his clothes that looked exactly like something Nosferatu would wear, and even looked like he was wearing shoulder pads like the ones vampires wear in those movies. The second thing we noticed is how pale he was, as we are looking at the back of his bald head. The third thing is what freaked my girlfriend and I out the most: his ears. It seemed we both noticed at the same time, because my girlfriend and I looked at each other and simultaneously said to each other, "Do you see his pointed ears?" His ears, he had ears that were pointy and big enough to where they would pass over his head, and I could see every detail in them as the light from the fast station were very bright. We began to freak out and yet considered going back and taking another look. But we decided that some things are better left unseen. We arrived at her house and the sense of fear overwhelmed us as we ran to get to her front door. This thing looked like those vampires in the American Horror Story, like a copy of Nosferatu, which seems to fit the area of the old Victorian homes in her city so well. Could it have been a vampire? Little creepy. Vampires, I believe vampires are real. I don't think so. Like that one, there was that one explanation that guy did, where he had talked about the energy vampires. It was an experience. Um, he had said he went to a party, and this girl had met a vampire, and he explains it to her at the sense of they don't drink blood, they drink, or they feed off of our energy, which I do believe, and I've said piece of shit, inorganic beings. So he says, turn around, or he covers his mouth and has her look, and he's got fangs. And she said, but I thought you didn't drink blood. And he said, no, we use it as fear. We can do this stuff. So I really do believe that vampires are real, but I think they are inorganic beings in the sense of what scientists explain as they are dimensional and feed off of our energy, and can produce this creepy display of what we view vampires as. I don't know if that makes sense. All right, this one's cool. This one's creepy. Johnny Ohm, thank you. Saw a video that theorized how vampires are descendants from the Nephilim. You're familiar with that idea? No, I haven't heard that, but it makes sense. I haven't heard that. That makes really good sense to me. They feed off of the loosh. Yes. Neutrino, after the live stream, Google inorganic beings. And literally, that is in the description of it, that they feed off of that. But I believe that makes sense about them being Nephilim, though, or part Nephilim, or descendants of. I'm just looking. I heard a noise outside. I wanted to see if my daughter and her boyfriend were home. They're home. They just pulled in they went to the casino tonight. Isabel and her boyfriend. What's a succubus? Succubus is a female demon. Incubus is a female demon. Incubus is a female demon that feeds on men. A succubus is a male demon that feeds on women. No, vice versa. Succubus is a woman demon. Incubus is a male demon. I believe. Opposite. Yes. So succubus is a male demon that feeds on women, and incubus is a female demon that feeds on men. Yes. Incubus is male. Yeah, okay. So what's up, Savage Lunatic? How are you? But look, there's a college write-up from the University of Hawaii. And you know what's cool about that is, so it's an amazing write-up. It's about science and the paranormal all in one. But I think that it's so cool that that thesis comes out of the University of Hawaii, because I got my book, the Solomon Island Nephilim book, that is super rare. It's super hard to find. I bought my copy from the University of Hawaii. And I just coincidentally, I just always thought that was cool. This stuff happened in an apartment I lived in a decade ago in Lakeview neighborhood of Chicago, Illinois. I moved into this apartment, a typical Chicago 4+1, September of 2003. And my husband, then boyfriend, moved in October of 2003. We had 2 cats, a light orange tabby, and a mostly white calico. We still have them as well. I had a few experiences at this apartment, but what I am sharing here is the first experience and the most terrifying. I've had other paranormal experiences since moving out of this apartment, but none of them can hold a candle to this one. It took me 8 years to come to terms with this experience. I'm a very logical person, and for the longest time, I was at a loss to explain this. But there is one thing I know for sure, that it was absolutely real. In late summer or early fall of 2004, I went to bed one night, but as usual, could not fall asleep quickly. Our cats normally went to bed with me, but they didn't on this night. So I sat in bed, thinking I would see them and called them to me. It was dark, but not pitch dark because the apartment windows let in faint light. When I sat up, I focused my eyes in the hallway to see if I could spot my cats playing or running around. But as soon as I focused my eyes in the hallway, I realized there was a very dark black, the blackest black you can think of, blacker than black, even like velveteen tar mass just past where a very brief hallway ended and the dining area started. It had to be around 7 feet in height and had a rough head and shoulder torso shape, but the rest of it kind of faded off. I wasn't alarmed at first. If anything, I leaned forward to try and get a better look because I absolutely couldn't believe my eyes. I was baffled. But when I leaned forward, the thing seemed to turn and look at me. And when it did, I saw two red eyes in its head. I did not see any other features, and I don't remember if the eyes were glowing or just plain red, but they were indeed red. And this is the biggest reason it took me so long to come to terms with this experience. Red eyes are supposed to be in horror movies and scary movies, not in my hallway. When the thing looked at me, my amazement confusion was quickly replaced by fear. And then it swooped through the bedroom doorway and toward me. I did the only damn thing I could think of, and that was to duck under the covers like a kid from the boogeyman. Oh, damn it. I was scared shitless. I have been in some scary situations in my life, but that peculiar fear was primal, almost unearthly. After several moments, I began to run out of air beneath the covers, so I decided to elbow my sleeping husband in the ribs hard enough to irritate him and make him wake up. Sit up, roll over, do something. It worked, and when he didn't react surprisingly, I figured the thing was gone, and it was. I wasn't able to get up and use the restroom in the middle of the night for weeks after this. I also made it a point not to look at a doorway if it didn't happen to wake up at night. I and later my husband saw the shadow again, but it never appeared remotely as threatening. In fact, before I learned more of the paranormal, I thought I had multiple spirits in my apartment building because the forms never looked exactly alike. But experience has taught me that this is most likely the same spirit. You're right, SDL. That is correct. I think it was spelled the way Hercules Misfit just spelled it, and I'm not saying it 3 times either. Oh no, there's a second. Don't you do it. Don't you do it, Hercules. Oh no. Here comes the juice. I can't believe he did it. He did it 3 times. We have a lot of mind caves in the mountains. Friends got me to go in one, never again. I was in 4 feet of water, dark energy. Damn. SoCal. SoCal's pretty creepy. So there was an experience, speaking of mining caves, that was in Kentucky just recently, a couple of months ago. And this kid was a caver, loved to do spelunking. he had gone in this cave. He had been warned. This cave was in this guy's on this guy's property, private property. So he asked the guy, "Can I go in this cave?" The guy had warned him, "There's a couple caves on my property in the woods. Go and spelunk them if you want. Just don't go on the cave that's up on the ledge area. You'll be fine." This guy goes in the cave. He has to start going. First, he goes in the cave and he has to go straight up. So like he wedges himself in backwards to stand up, and then he has to climb up into the thing and like weasel up into it. He eventually gets to where he can stand up and start walking. As he's walking, it's an odd shaped cave. He's walking through it. There's on the left or the right, there are stalagmites and stalactites. He keeps walking, and he comes to another area where he's got to crawl. He's got a belly crawl underneath, and then he's able to walk upright again, and he comes to this like really large kind of cavernous room area, and he hears a weird noise, right? He's got his headlamp on, he's got his flashlight out, and he thought he saw movement in the distance. So he kind of picked up his pace because he's like, what the fuck? As he comes around the corner, he's face to face with what we know as crawlers, a very descent like creature. And he takes off fucking running back the way he came. Now, imagine going through this cave reverse now, something that took you forever to get into because of the GI crawl. And then the worst part was getting in and out of the cave, because to get out, he'd have to, at the final part, another GI crawl and then lower himself down head first. When he does this, these things are running through this cave chasing him, and he can hear them. He sees them there's like that little kind of edge where the ground falls off. He eventually gets out of the cave to find the owner of the house, or owner of the land, was standing outside of the cave, because he knew that by telling him not to go in it, he was going to go in it. And he wanted to make sure that he came out of there alive. He ended up saving the kid. The guy ended up blocking off the cave, and that was the last experience that I had heard from him on a cave. Chud is the greatest movie on earth. Caves suck. I will never spelunk again. All right. It is time for the last Lizzo story. Here we go. This is where her dad pops in. Cannibalistic humanoid underground dwellers, the Chud. The movie that scarred my childhood. It fucking scarred my childhood until I saw my first Chuck Norris movie. Then I knew life was okay. It was a dark and stormy night at the local truck stop. The neon signs of the various fast food joints and convenience stores casting an eerie glow over the deserted parking lot. Lizzo, the queen of the truck stop prostitutes, sat perched on her hood of her Cadillac, sipping on a cold beer and surveying her kingdom. She was a tall, imposing figure with a wild mane of curly hair and a sharp tongue that could cut down even the toughest truckers. As she sat there, she noticed a familiar figure pulling into the truck stop. The sleek, black Cadillac Escalade with tinted windows and hydraulics that made it bounce like a lowrider. It was her daddy, Snoop Dogg, the king of pimps, and he looked like he was in a world of trouble. Lizzo hopped down off the hood of her car and strutted over to Snoop's Escalade, her stilettos clicking on the pavement. "What's good, Daddy?" she asked, eyeing the worried look on his face. Snoop Dogg didn't even bother getting to get out of the car. He just rolled down his window and said, "Lizzo, I need your help, girl. I got a problem on my hands." Lizzo raised an eyebrow. "What kind of problem, Daddy?" Making sure no one was listening. "I got a group of one-eyed demons chasing me, Lizzo. They're looking to steal my gin and juice." Lizzo's eyes widened, surprised. "One-eyed demons? You mean like from the depths of hell?" Snoop nodded. "That's the ones. They are wild, Lizzo, and they won't stop until they get what they want, and I need your help to fight them off." Lizzo grinned, a fierce glint in her eye. "Well, Daddy, you come to the right place. I got a few tricks up my sleeve, and I'm always ready to throw down." Shit. Sorry. "I'm always ready to throw down." Just then, a group of strange one-eyed creatures emerged from the darkness, their eyes glowing with an otherworldly light. They were tall, gaunt, with long fingers that ended in razor-sharp claws, and they moved with a jerky, unnatural gait. Lizzo stood tall, her hands on her hips. "Well, well, look what we got here. A bunch of one-eyed freaks look to get their hands on some gin and juice." The leader of the demons, a towering creature with a single eye that glowed like a lantern, sneered at Lizzo. "You think you can stop us? Wait, you can. You think you can stop us, lot lizard? We will tear you apart and drink your blood." Lizzo just laughed, cold, mirthless sound. "You think that you're first freaks to come at me, demons? I've been dealing with weirdos like you for years. Bring it on, baby." With a fierce battle cry, Lizzo launched herself at the demons, her stilettos flashing in the neon light. She kicked and punched, her long fingernails scratched at their faces, and her sharp tongue lashed out with insults. Snoop Dogg watched in amazement as his daughter took down the demon after demon. Her movements were a blur of fury and determination. He joined in the fight, his smooth voice rapping out a rhythm as he laid down a barrage of punches and kicks. The battle was wild, with the demons flying through the air and crashing into the pavement. Lizzo and Snoop fought back to back, their movements perfectly synchronized as they took down the one-eyed creatures. But just when it seemed like they were gaining the upper hand, the demons seemed to grow stronger, their eyes glowing brighter as they summoned up some kind of dark energy. Lizzo stumbled back, her eyes widened in surprise as the demons launched a fierce counterattack, and Snoop caught her by her arm, his voice urgent. "Lizzo, we need to get out of here now." But Lizzo was not having none of it. With a fierce cry, she launched herself at the demons, her stilettos flashing in the neon light. She kicked and punched, her long nails scratching. Her sharp tongue was ripping the insults. The battle raged, the outcome hanging on a balance. But Lizzo and Snoop Dogg were a team, and together they were unstoppable. They fought with every ounce of strength they had, their movements a blur of fury and determination. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity, the demons lay defeated at their feet. Lizzo and Snoop stood tall, their chests heaved with exhaustion as they surveyed the as they surveyed the carnage. Lizzo grinned, a fierce glint in her eyes. That was fun, Daddy. Let's do that again sometime. Snoop Dogg chuckled, shaking his head. You're something else, Lizzo. I'm proud of you, girl. As they walked back to Snoop's Escalade, Lizzo turned to him with a curious expression. Daddy, what's so special about your gin and juice, anyway? Snoop smiled, a sly glint in his eyes. It's not just any gin and juice, Lizzo. It's best in the world. And those demons will stop at nothing to get it. But with your help, I think we can take him. Lizzo nodded, a fierce determination in her heart. Don't you worry, Daddy. I always have your back, and I'll always be ready to throw down. We're a team, and together we are unstoppable. As they drove off into the night, the neon signs of the truck stop fading into the distance. Lizzo, they would always stand together, ready to face whatever challenges may come their way, and with their combined strength and determination, they knew that they could conquer anything. Ugh. All right. All right, here we go. So this happened to my friend, not me, back in 2007, but she's here next to me recounting her experience, and I'm typing it out to share with you guys. Anyway, she was walking home from her friend's house at night. This is a town in Southern Oregon, in case that's important. She doesn't remember the exact spot, but she says it was definitely after midnight and was dark, so no one else was out. She says that she was completely sober and not sleep deprived. So she's on her way home and she's about 2 blocks from her house. She was walking on the sidewalk along the main street and was crossing between 5th and 6th. Her house is on 7th, across from the street. And a cemetery. Right then, she noticed something about 50 feet ahead of her, crossing the street from the cemetery side to side she was on. This is how she describes it. There were 2 creatures walking on their hind legs, side by side. One was slightly shorter than the other, but they were both very tall, 7 feet at least. They were hunched over, lanky, extremely skinny. She says her immediate first thought was they looked almost like a deer walking on their hind legs, but they did not have any fur or antlers. It was mostly a dark grayish color. She held her arms and wrists kind of like a T-Rex, but her arms and hands were very long, almost as long as their legs. When I asked, she said she didn't see a tail or any hooves. She says she doesn't think so, but can't remember. Everything was quiet, and she did hear them making sounds. Damn it. Making sounds on the pavement as they walked. I asked her if it had any antlers or its head was shaped like a deer, and she said no antlers. Its head was shaped like not a deer or any animal, but more like a person's. She describes their faces as looking human with human features, but something was slightly askew. All right, I am beat tired. I have got to crash. Ugh. Delta Force, is that the first one, 59th? When he's got the 2 Mac 10s on his side? Drrr. Buddy! Buddy! Come on, buddy. Come on, buddy. Buddy. I think Tigger's coming. Come on, bud. Come on, buddy. Let me see. Let me try to get Tigger. Buddy. Come here. Here, buddy. Come on. Come on. Here, buddy. Come here. He's coming in. Buddy. Come on. Come on, buddy. Oh, he's staring at my snake. He's staring at the snake outside of the room. Come here, buddy. Come on. Come on. Tiggy, what's wrong with you? I wanted to get him. All right, guys. I guess he's not coming because my daughter's an asshole. I'm trying to call him. She's in the living room calling him back. What a dink. All right. Hang on. I'm going to get him. Hang on. Come on, buddy. Come on, bud. Come here. Hey, come here. Everybody wants to say hi. Come on. Everybody wants to say hi to you. Everybody wants to say hi. Look, there he is. There's the buddy. There's the buddy. Say hi to everybody. Say hi. Oh, yeah. Don't go. Ow. He's such an asshole. My daughter is a dang. That's my dad's favorite term, so that's why I say it. Ugh. Anytime I don't want him in here, he's here. If I want him in here, he doesn't come. He's just such a dank. All right, guys. Have a good night. I'll see you next week. Thank you for hanging out with me on this Saturday evening. I hope you guys enjoyed the Lot Lizard stories. Delirium, Red Robin, thank you so much. Aramic, thank you. Everybody, thank you. You guys, thank you for being here. So with that, love you all. Have a good night. Bink, bink.